Ach tov chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Beshavti bevet Adonai liorech yamim.
We read together inside the program. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Rabbi Alan Fine wrote, "Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Amen. We take a moment now for silent reflection. I'd like now to invite John Silver, Michael's stepfather, to share a few of his reflections.
Thank you all for being here today. I decided to wear a suit today. I know Mike would have approved, although he would have had no problem if I was less formal. Mike occasionally dressed formally and looked outstanding when doing so, but his preferred dress was casual. Particularly favored would be a hockey shirt of his beloved Detroit Red Wings, and on a mild day like today, shorts. In fact, the temperature had to drop close to freezing before the shorts became long pants. I first knew Mike when he was about to leave his teen years, and he and his younger brother Dave became as precious to me as their mother. Mike loved radio. In an ideal world, he would have been a sports broadcaster, as his sports knowledge was encyclopedic, especially about hockey, and he was a natural on air. I know this latter from being in studio with him when he produced a radio show, and he did short fill-in segments. In the last couple of years, he did have a radio show. It was music at a small radio station in Coquitlam. And that gave me a special connection with Mike, as when Alexine and I were living in Powell River, I too was host of a weekly radio program. life did not deal Mike an easy hand. When I came into the family, Alexine had been a single mum for 10 years in difficult circumstances. That forged an extraordinary bond between her and her boys. They called themselves the Three Musketeers. Searching for a vocation was a prolonged process for Mike, a sensitive person with a lot of self-doubt. But 4 or 5 years ago, he went back to school to earn a diploma as a life coach. Never was a person more suited to an occupation. A life coach, in effect, is similar to a counselor, and Alexine and I came to now know how good he was, as he often shared his cases with us and how he attempted to handle them. I hasten to add there was never disclosure of confidential information. His first job was with the Salvation Army on the downtown east side of Vancouver. The clientele was a reflection of the disadvantaged community of that neighborhood. Very rapidly, he was being given the most difficult cases. His skills were the command of his discipline and his completely non-judgmental approach to his clients. They trusted him completely. Mike lived in Langley, and working in Vancouver, he drove close to 1.5 hours each way. Often on the way home, he would phone his mum, and they would talk for most of the journey. They talked for that long 2 or 3 times a week. If I heard Alexine's side of the conversation, I learned not to expect the conversation was over when it appeared a goodbye was being said. Something else was always worth adding. They were completely open with each other about everything. It was a relationship that was not only mother and son, but also that of best friends. I should add the same is also true for Alexine's relationship with Dave, and it's been one of my greatest privileges to be so close to that. Mike had another love in his life, his daughter Samantha. Sam, your dad loved you as only a dad can love a daughter. While Alexine and I can never replicate that particular love, we too love you dearly and are always here for you. The last 5 years, Mike experienced very difficult health problems that culminated in the calamity that has brought us here today. I'm sure he knew he loved his I'm sure he knew he was loved, but probably not the true extent of that love, not only from his family, but from his many friends. I think that widespread love has been specially demonstrated by former romantic partners. A number of those partners are here today. Others have been in contact by phone, distraught at the news and that they could not be here in person. All of us who knew him are profoundly grateful for what he gave us. And I want to conclude with the simple, beautiful, moving opening sentence of the email Alexine sent to a few of you to let you know what had happened. She said, "My beautiful, wonderful, loving and kind son Michael died this morning. I can only add, we have an enormous hole in our lives."
Thank you so much, John. John mentioned, and many of us know, that Michael's relationship with his father was difficult. And yet, of course, it is unfathomable in losing a child, and I have just a brief word from his father, Harley. He writes, "First of all, I would like to thank each of you for being here today. It is very much appreciated. Due to my wife's fighting breast cancer and the chemo process in Washington, I am not able to be here. The loss of Michael's life at such a young age of 47 is tragic. Rabbis have said life should be 70 years. 70. The shock of this loss lingers. Michael and I have had a strained relationship for numerous years, but in the past 5 years, we regained one of favorable communications and saw each other in person in Portland, Oregon. Michael had a very influential presence in sports, radio, music, and family. Over the past number of years, I have helped thousands of families through their time of grief, but when it is one of your own, it hits home very hard. I appreciate the comfort that our Jewish tradition provides. May Michael's memory be a blessing for all of us. So how do we respond to a loss like this? We were not expecting to be here mourning the death of this wonderful man, Michael, lost far too young. Michael himself knew the right words to say in a difficult situation because of his insightful empathy. And yet here we are grasping for words to comfort us. I myself met Michael about 1.5 years ago. He came to see me and tell me about the work that he was doing with his coaching and counseling. He was facilitating a group for single dads and working with clients who were struggling with their difficult lives. I could see just in that brief encounter what passion he had for the work he was doing. He was a person who cared deeply about those he encountered. He knew, and he gave off the beautiful sense to each person he met that they mattered. Michael's gift of empathy carried him in many different places in his life. He did find his professional calling a bit late in his career search, but it was a perfect match. It's not surprising that he found meaning in his work that relied on his empathy. He had an incredible kindness toward people. I learned that his friends in high school called him Dear Abby because they knew he would be a wonderful listener and give thoughtful advice. His caring for people was felt, of course, most deeply with his family. He loved being a father to Sam. The opportunities I heard that you had to explore the world together. He loved showing you new things and opening the world to you. You were his life. He adored you. Mike also loved his more recent role as an uncle to his nephews DJ and Wolfie. Recently, he had the opportunity to spend time with them in Portland, and he was excited to share that love of hockey with the boys. He was such a super fan. And he loved also playing floor hockey and organizing his team's annual trip to Las Vegas for a tournament. Besides his love of radio, Mike also was a DJ, and he would lead trivia nights and music nights at local pubs. But he also did this at seniors' homes. He would bring music from the 1930s and 40s and loved to kibitz with the residents. Mike loved organizing people and events. He would spend an incredible amount of time and effort to find the perfect gift for each individual on a particular occasion. Alexine told me how for a recent birthday, Mike compiled a DVD of birthday video messages from friends near and far, and how touching and precious that was to her. He was a devoted son to you, Alexine, as John described so beautifully, and a devoted brother to you, Dave. And though you were different people with very different interests and living a distance apart, you were always there for one another when you needed your brother. He loved spending time too with his Bubba and Zadie of blessed memory, his grandparents. Love to go with them to Palm Springs, where they spent much of the year. Zadie would take Mike around in his golf cart and introduce him to all of the neighbors, teach him how to hit golf balls. And Mike also had a fierce rummy cube reputation. He played games with his Bubba, and he was known to be unbeatable in the Palm Springs circuit. The last few years were difficult for Mike with his health, but he also had this incredible growth in his new career and finding ways to help people with that beautiful empathy. Mike wasn't a particularly religious man, though he was always insistent on celebrating Jewish holidays and gathering together as a family. But that empathetic part of his soul, that core of his being, that was how he lived as a Jew. His empathy was deeply rooted in Torah and Jewish values. The most well-known articulation of this charge in Torah comes to us over and over again, and we'll hear it soon at our Passover tables. You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the feelings of the stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt. The Torah appeals to our memory to intensify our ethical obligations, that having tasted suffering and vulnerability, we are not to oppress others. The Torah's call for empathy, that because we know what it feels like to be vulnerable, to be a stranger, that we must look out for others. It makes it clear to us that the poor and the downtrodden, the vulnerable and the oppressed, the powerless are all our neighbors. Mike saw this so clearly as he connected with every person in his life. To know that we are all kin, we are all connected as human beings. Mike had a precious gift of seeing the humanity in each and every person he encountered. And we who loved and cared for him so deeply, as we gather in mourning today, let us remember that the empathy that Mike showed to us and to others might continue to be a blessing in the world. That we can bring blessing to Mike's memory as we show empathy to others, when we encounter people as he did, as fully realized human beings, worthy of blessing. The world needs empathy now more than ever. And in Michael's memory, we will call upon our own reservoirs to bring that empathy into the world. Yehi zichrono livracha. May Michael's memory be a blessing in our world. Amen. Friends, I want to share just a few announcements before we conclude this portion of our service. Immediately following the service, we will travel to the Temple Shalom Cemetery in White Rock for the internment. There are directions printed as you leave the front hallway if you need them to drive to the cemetery. This evening, the family will be holding a Shiva minyan here at the synagogue at Temple Shalom. It is our Jewish tradition during the first week of mourning that we come to comfort the mourners, to be able to create a community that enables them to pray and say the Kaddish, the prayers for the mourners, but also to just feel the sense of your presence and your compassion in the time of their grief. So you are most warmly welcome and encouraged to join us this evening. The minyan, the service will be at 7 p.m. here at Temple Shalom. I'm going to invite now all of you, if you would, to please rise. As we chant the El Malei Rachamim, as we ask God to take Michael's soul into eternal peace.
El mole rachamim shochen bameromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanafei hashechina b'mahalot kedoshim utahorim Kezohar harakia mazchirim et nishmat meir chaim ben Chanuch ben Nechama sheholach liolamo Began Eden tehei menuchato Ono bol harachamim hastirehu besefer kenofecha liolamim. Utzror bitzaror hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom. Amishkavo no more. Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Meir Chaim ben Hanoch Nechama, Michael Felstein, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. Invite the pallbearers, if you would, to please come forward.